thing I love about truffles is not so much the fact that they're a delicacy, which is great, but I just love how cool they are. They're so interesting. They have such an interesting biology, and they're basically unknowable. The kingdom of fungi just fascinates me, and truffles are an incredible example of that. The aroma is the thing that makes the truffle so important in its own kingdom and also for humans and for animals. And it's been said that the aroma of the truffle is one of the most seductive to mammals. People think of them as a gastronomic delicacy, which they are, and they are delicious. But the thing that fascinates me most about them is the way they live and the way they reproduce, which we know very little about, and the incredible relationship that they have with our trees. So the truffle itself is actually the fruiting body of a fungus. So it's like a mushroom, but it's an underground mushroom. But the tuber melanosporum, or the truffle fungus, is actually the fruit of a mycelium which grows under the ground. And that mycelium coats every root of the host tree like a glove. It's called a mantle. And then it grows into the ground and it creates these vast networks. When the truffle wants to reproduce, which we don't exactly know how they do it, it creates this fruiting body called a truffle. So the truffle holds all the spores of the mycelium. And that relationship is a symbiotic relationship, but it's also a lot more complicated than that. The truffle will give the tree nutrients such as phosphorus and nitrogen, and the tree gives the truffle carbon and carbohydrates. So they do interact, but they also have a slightly competitive feel in that relationship, and it's a really complex one. There's been a lot of studies on it recently from Italy and France. People are getting super interested in truffles.
This will be our last walkthrough with the dogs this year. We'll start doing some pruning of the trees. That could take up to an hour per tree, and with 317 odd trees, that's a lot of pruning that takes place. Soil sampling, checking all of the irrigation lines and keeping the grass and everything trimmed. And the main thing is to make sure that the soil is at the right pH level, that the irrigation is fine, and keeping the wombats and the wildlife out.
Utilised our pet dogs to detect truffles. And what we're asking our dogs to do is, firstly, on cue to work. So when they're not cued, they're relaxed and in an off-switch position. And then when we cue them to work, they'll move ahead and hunt for truffle. When they find it, there may be a bit of scratching around superficially, but they should give us a passive alert, which is a drop with nose to target. So the truffle is the target. For me personally, I love the partnership. I love to work with my dog and have them work for me and bond with me. We both love the aroma of the truffle. I mean, to find a truffle, the smell, the scent of the soil, we get down and we'll have a sniff as well as the dog to define the ripeness and so on. I actually don't like truffles a whole lot, which is probably fortunate.
There's a lot of things that we don't know, and I think the fact that we've been able to cultivate them shows that we can predict some things about their biology and we can understand some things about them, but there's a lot about them that we really don't know yet. It's actual soil temperature rather than air temperature that affects truffles. So they like summer warmth and they like rain in the autumn and late summer. And they need to have frosts to have that really beautiful mature aroma. So this truffle has a slow growing period, probably from around spring or summer. There's different evidence for that. And then it matures quickly as the frosts come in and the temperature drops in the winter and the autumn.
At the start of the season, before the lockdown came into effect, we were selling most of our product to Sydney. We had a large number of products going through to a couple of customers. They'd be buying 2 to 3 kilos each week. And then as soon as lockdown impacted, our market got hit dramatically, both with our hunts that we had to cancel, as well as with our product sales. But we've been able to pivot that, and we've been able to sell that now to a lot of the home cooks that are in lockdown and still want to have that delicacy. So the last few weeks we've been boxing up 30 to 40 boxes of truffles, individual truffles at 20 to 30 grams or upwards, and sending them off throughout the state. And we were fortunate, we've got a very strong subscriber list and a lot of followers. We put out one email and that lasted us for 3 to 4 weeks of supply. So we couldn't keep up with the demand. Once the trees are planted, they'll take anywhere from 5 to 7 years to start producing. So it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. I don't even know if it's about to get rich, but it's more of a passion. And you can run your dogs over and not find anything. The roads that we've got closest to us here are summer truffle. They produced the first time last year, so that's after 15 years they produced their first truffles. So it's a long-term return for that, and it's more of a passion.